Hey guys, Carlos Colon here with Georgia Perimeter Homes, and today we're going to be talking about retirement, specifically early retirement and investing in property in order to retire. So, if you have not done so already, give this video a thumbs up, and we're going to jump right in. So guys, for those of you that tune in every week, welcome back. I'm really excited about this subject because obviously it's close to my heart, and for most of us as work most of our lives, it's close to everyone's heart. So I think that retirement is probably one of the most important parts of everyone's life. The real question becomes, we need to really define retirement and what it means for you. And unfortunately, I can't answer that for you. The reality is sometimes as a child, for example, I had a misconception of what retirement really is. Retirement as a child for me meant, man, there's going to be one day where I don't work at all and I can do whatever I want, which is semi-true, but in practice, what I found and what I've seen personally is that for most people, retirement is actually I don't really have to work, I just choose to work, if that makes sense. And when I say work, it's more kind of voluntary, usually here or there. It's not a consistent job. For some people, they really do retire and just do some mundane job that they just, occupies their time. Most people don't go through retirement doing nothing, is what I'm saying. And it's important to understand that, because if you could imagine yourself literally doing nothing every single day nonstop for a couple months, you'd go crazy. And some people retire and they do that for about a year or so, and then they go, well, I need to do something. And then they figure it out from there. So, again, back to step one. We need to define what retirement is for you. For me, retirement is exactly that I can choose to work or not work. I can go on a 3-month vacation and no one's going to miss me. That is the idea behind my understanding of what I would want for retirement. And if I choose to go on a 3-month sabbatical and I come back, nothing's fallen apart. Okay. That would be a perfect retirement situation in my head. So for most of you, I'm just going to jump on the assumption that that's what you want to achieve. In doing so, there's a lot that has to be accomplished in doing that. So I think that without getting into too many more details about what your personal retirement financial plan should look like, I think that real estate should definitely be a part of everyone's financial plan. What part it plays in your life is going to be dependent upon what you want to achieve in your retirement. For example, if you want to travel the world and see everything there is to see in the world and do whatever you want and pay for these fancy hotels, the problem is that you still need to be making some kind of money or have money set aside that you're using in order to pay for all this. And if you just saved up the money, it will be gone at some point in time, in most cases. And so you need to consistently have income in some way, shape, or form that's going to be paying for these experiences. However, if you're retiring and all you're going to be doing is, playing tennis and working out every day, one's a lot cheaper than the other. So you've got to understand what your perfect vision is, and maybe your perfect vision is being able to do either or. So let's go into some of the ways that you can really invest in real estate to be able to get you there. So one of the most popular ways, number one for me, is going to be using your equity that you have in your home. This is most common for most of us that are watching this video, which is we own a home or we have a home that we don't owe, or we owe a lot less than what it's actually worth. And so the equity is the difference between those two numbers. So you can take the money that you have in equity and you can use that. In most cases, most people pull out what's called a HELOC, a home equity line of credit, to be able to use that money. Now, just understand something. You're borrowing. It's like, I don't want to call it taking out a mortgage, but it is, you're taking out a loan against your property, so it does have to be paid back. So is that a true retirement plan? No, it's more like a nice credit card, a really nice credit card. So most people have access to this. So is it going to be a long-term solution for retirement? No. I don't think that's a very good solution. You could also do, in order to pull out equity, you could do a cash out refinance where you do a whole new mortgage for the higher amount that you want to pull out in cash for your property, and they'll give it to you at that closing. Then you can use that. But again, that's one lump sum. You need to really invest money in something that's going to pay dividends back. That is what we're really talking about today. So let's move on from that, because that's not really going to solve your problem. So in most cases, for people that want to invest in property, which is what we're going to talk about next, is investing in investment homes, there's really two ways to go. Buy and hold, okay, or buy and flip. All right, I'm going to summarize it to both of those. I'm going to start with the buy and flip. For the purposes of retirement, a buy and flip, I personally consider a job. A buy and flip is, whether you have somebody on site that handles this for you or not, a buy and flip provides one check, and that's when it sells. Okay, that's the reason I call it a job. Is you're working all this time to get this property ready for sale, and then you flip it to sell it, and you get one check. All right. Whereas a buy and hold is a completely different story. So, could flipping lead to retirement? I suppose it could, but what would end up happening is you'd probably flip one or two houses a year, depending on what your profit margins are, in order to fund retirement. So would you really be retired? That's not my definition of retirement, because then you're still relying on that. So the other, which is the buy and hold, is a little bit different. So buy and hold, you buy a property, maybe you rent it out, and you make a profit every month from it. So every month you're getting a check that comes in. Now, you need to subtract your expenses and everything else, and then you have your net profit. The problem with this is a lot of people don't understand their numbers, and that's part of what we'll talk about today. Is let's say you're renting a property for $1,800 a month, but it's actually costing you $800 for the principal and interest on that property. Then you have your taxes and insurance on that property, and maybe that all adds up to $1,300 or $1,400 a month. And then you think, okay, well, I'm making a $400 profit. Are you? Because then at that point, any deferred maintenance that you have to do, for example, roof repairs, water heater, air conditioning, will be coming from those $400. $400 per month times 1 year, that's really $4,800. Replace one air conditioner on the unit, for that year, your entire profit for the year is gone. So you have to think about ways to make sure that you're profiting as you go along. So could buying and holding be a great retirement plan? It could. But as you just saw from the simple example on numbers I just showed you, you can't do that with one or two properties. So if you're going to go this route with the buy and hold towards retirement, you really need to prepare to hold a lot of properties. And so what I mean by that is 2 or 3 of them isn't really going to get you to retirement. Even if you own them free and clear, I mean, that you still have property taxes to pay and insurance. So you're never really going to own them free and clear. If you own them without a mortgage, you'll make a higher profit margin. That's fine. But my recommendation is you really need to have 10 or more doors, is what I call them. So doors meaning rental units. Okay, each unit is a door. So in my mindset, we're talking, again, 10 or more doors. Why do I say that? Because in the example I just gave you, which is very realistic, of you're really making around $400 per door profit. If you have 10 doors that are doing that, great. Well, now you're making $4,000 a month net profit. So even if you have an air conditioner go out that month, okay, well, that just ate up 1 month's profit. That's not the end of the world. It's not like you're going to have literally an air conditioning unit that you have to replace every single month. For 12 months, you only have 10 units, so it doesn't make sense. So once you have 10 doors and you start going up from there, the numbers add up on the profit you're receiving and how it offsets the maintenance for those properties. Now, keep in mind, even on that short summary, we didn't even talk about property management, which typically takes 10% of the gross income for that rent. Now let's go into what most people do in this situation, which is they play a fine line between buy and holds and flips, which I think is a very smart way to do this. So you might, let's say in the mindset that you're gone for 3 months out of the year or whatever on vacation, you come back, maybe you go ahead and you buy another property and you rent it out, and then you sell a property that you owned for 5-6 years previously, and all of a sudden you have this $100,000 of influx that can now fund your next year, and you picked up a new property as well to hold. So you're really renting several properties, and then you sell them, make money, and then you roll it back into the purchase of a property, and it also funds what you're doing for that year. So this is a good way to go about it, and it works really well. The only problem with this is you always have to be able to be in the loop on what properties are available on the market or off market to be able to purchase for a really good deal. And the real problem becomes if you've unplugged through retirement, unless you keep your ears very close to the ground on what good deals there are out there, you're really going to miss the best deals. Because one of the ways that I find the best deals that I personally purchase is by being in the industry every single day. So if I was not in that situation, I would miss a lot of the good deals. So you've got to understand you can't get both of those simultaneously unless you've got somebody that you can reach out to that will pass them to you, which is where we get this idea of wholesalers. That's what they do, right? They find properties, they find really good deals on them, and they sell those to investors. And that's how they're in business. So, in summary, we now understand, number one, I need to understand what I want for retirement and what that looks like for me. Number two, what would investing in properties and real estate look like in order to be able to fund that potentially? Number three, how do I get started, Carlos? Well, I think that we start by, number one, subscribing to this channel. Subscribe to this channel if you've not done so already before we get to the next bit of information. And if you have not done so already, hit a like button and make sure that you hit the notification bell so that you get videos like this every single week that we release them. So, moving into it, how do I get started? All right, we start with one simple step, which is make one small step every single day. And what I mean by that is I break it down to days, but really it could be I want to buy my first investment home this year, or I want to buy my first investment home in the next 3 months, 6 months. Don't focus on I want to own 100 doors, or I want to have 5 flip houses going nonstop. Just focus on the first, maybe the first and the second ones, and keep your focus there. Okay, people start to get into this like decision paralysis when you start thinking about the overwhelming mountain. Don't do that. If you've got a huge cake and you got to eat it one bite at a time. Focus on one small step. Okay, so first step is, how do I get started with my first home? How do I afford it? What's the best way for me to go about this? And actually, a lot of people have done this by taking the personal home that they're living in, instead of selling it, holding it, go ahead and rent it out, move back in with the family, and then buy another home. Okay, that's a great way to do it. It really is. Because you can take advantage of your FHA 3.5% loans, or your 3% conventional loans, or 5% conventional loans, instead of having to purchase a 20% down property. So that's a great way to go. Okay, so next step. Aside from taking one small step every day, you need to know your numbers. Okay? I ran you through a very simplified situation when I was talking about an $1,800 a month rental property. And I mean very simplified. We didn't go into detail on what companies provide cheapest insurance, how can I avoid paying the highest taxes possible, and how do I fight my tax bill every year for property taxes so I can lower it. Also, how do I get the best interest rate for my principal and interest so that that payment's as low as possible? You know, there are a lot of complexities here. Property management companies. Are all property management companies 10%? No. And if you have more properties, you can get better deals too. I mean, there are some people that pay, 8 and 6% for property management. Or if you have enough properties, the question is, should you start your own property management company and self-sustain and run it yourself? Or hire someone rather to run your properties? And so these are all questions that you have to answer for yourself. And we're not going to go into that, but this particular section that I'm referring to you need to go into that. Know your numbers. And so understand that, that $1,800 a month rental situation that I just explained to you is not always going to work out great. You need to prepare for, okay, well, what happens if I get to property one and this happens every single time? And this is where having a great equation on what dollar amount on your purchase for your investment home is worth it and what's the deal breaker. So have a great equation on, hey, if crap hits the fan, I can sell this thing and we're still okay. And this is how much we'll make if we sell it. So a good rule of thumb to use is you make your money, whether you're buying and holding or you're flipping, you make your money on the purchase price. Okay? That is where you make your money. Think about it. Even if you're renting it out, on the purchase price, that sets your principal and interest payment. So you have to understand that that part of it will be the biggest chunk of that, how much net return every month I have. And then on the back end, if I'm going to flip it, obviously, that purchase price is going to heavily affect what my net profit is on that flip. So I hope that this helps you in your walk and your journey, getting one step closer to retirement, and hopefully you understand what retirement is going to mean for you. If you're like me, it really just means flexibility to do what you want when you want, and I think that's the best way to think about it. So if you like this information, if you want more information and want to look at some great homes that we have available for sale, take a look at our website at www.georgiaperimeterhomes.com, or give us a call if you want us to represent you in the buying or selling of real estate. Our number is 770-314-1285. Thanks, you guys. See you next week. Bye.